second. Hey, Holly, how are you?
Okay.
Holly, listen, I got to tell you, there's a method to my madness. So we were having a conversation about streaks in our stupid meditation app, which I love. I love. But
we brag, we talk about them all the time.
yeah, you know how like in the 90s, teenage girls were like fanboys of like boy bands? Like that's how I kind of feel like I am about Muse.
We had the co-founder on the show, and I'm like, this is it. This is why we're doing the show.
Yeah.
Do you have a poster up in your room? I mean,
No,
that's
no.
the meditation channel.
No, exactly. So
but I mean, it's always within reach. I'm like, look, I put a little sticker on mine.
It's a whole thing. But like, how fucked up is it that we are this attached to a streak in an app that tells us how to relax? Like, I mean, it's just the funniest thing.
I have anxiety about the app.
And then you lose your mind looking for your relaxation tool. You're just like freaking out for relaxation.
Oh my God. So the streak was fine. I was participating accurately in the streak, but the app malfunctioned. So it went to 0 and I legit lost my shit. Like it was like, what do you mean 0?
I think we need to have a backup plan. Like, I think gotta have it. You need some backup.
I mean, it was just funny. And I know I'm not the only human on earth, like when a streak like this breaks, that they would like go absolutely crazy. So just in case anyone's sweating right now, listening, the streak problem has been resolved. The app has gone back to behaving as it should, and the streak was restored. So all is right in the world, but
you can relax now.
We did learn a lot about ourselves in this.
I got very anxious hearing the story. I was like, you mean that could happen to me?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm gonna have to try this thing out. This sounds good.
It's awesome. Yeah. Do you meditate at all, Holly?
I used to more. I tell everyone to. I make all my clients do it, right? But yeah, it's I think mine is like meditation on the go for sure.
Sure. Yeah, no.
I have a different system. I do not have a band that helps me. That would be really lovely.
The band is fun. And you don't like, clearly meditation is free. You don't need anything, but like every time a feature comes out, every time something new comes out, let's beta test it. I'll do it. I'll sign up for it. Oh, you partnered with another app? Oh, go get that too.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it's fun. And like, there's not a lot of risk on the downside of this. I mean, it's a couple $100 that you're out when you buy the hardware, but like, that's sort of the worst thing that could happen, is that you spent a couple $100. Like everything else, it's just teaching you how to do. I mean, my daughter used it when she was real young. And I mean, there's a point where your brain waves do a thing and then you get a bird chirp. That's kind of like what you're doing. And the bird chirp means, hey, you're in the right spot.
You're in coherence.
Yeah. And my daughter hit it, and like, I couldn't tell her how to meditate. I can get her meditative words.
Right.
But as soon as she heard that bird and I said, that's meditating right there where you're at. And that she understood, and she can actually dive into that state now pretty effortlessly as a teenager, because I think she's got this muscle memory that Muse Headband taught.
When do you need it more than when you're a teenager? That's perfect. If she can
It is pretty cool, actually, because you could harken back to that and be like, hey, take a breath. And like, you're not just saying, it's not a platitude, like it's an actual instruction. You're like, no,
like, I understand what you're saying within that.
Yeah. Go actually take a breath, please. Like, and hey, look, sometimes you just want to punch your parents in the face for doing that. Sometimes.
I taught speech years ago. I did like debate and speech and things. And so I would teach the kids how to meditate. I'd lay them all out on the floor.
Yeah, how nice.
And I would just, walk them through some, or have some of this going on. Cause I'm like, when you're about to throw up because you've got to get up and do this thing, these are, and it is, you teach them and they pick up on it fast, and they can jump back. They just need somebody to show them how to do it.
Yeah. And I feel like the only reason adults can't do that as well is because we've got decades of programming to say that this is bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, we actually could probably do it even easier just because we've got more, pathways developed and whatnot. I think should be easier.
We might have damaged more pathways too, though.
Yeah, correct. Well, here we're not here to talk about meditation, but yeah, I just thought I'd bring that little piece in. So Holly, thank you for coming along.
Yeah.
We do need to get into what you're all about, though. So let's you've got a pretty cool sort of on-ramp to what you're doing today. You want to just kind of bring us down that path for a
Yeah,
little bit?
we call it
Walk
the
into
origin story.
Yeah,
Give
it's
us
the
the
origin
origin story.
man.
Oh, goodness. For NLP. So what's fun is actually talking about meditation. It's not that far off, right?
Yeah,
No.
it was like we did it on purpose, Holly.
I know.
It's almost like we know what we're doing, but we don't.
It's
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, this whole idea of NLP, and it's very hypnotic when we're doing it. And it's very meditative state, or getting people to that state, but without telling them that's pretty much what you're doing. So
Yeah.
you can do this when people come to you, right? NLP, it was created early 70s. You got two guys that came along and they took kind of this idea of cybernetics and just said, okay, what can we do with that? And so there were so many phases. They brought it in, they started using it and trying it out on people doing different things. And it's kind of a hypnotic state. How can we get people with the conscious level and subconscious level and make these things work together? You know, it's kind of this way to reprogram the brain. So if we can shift ideas in and out of our conscious and our subconscious, then we can sort of control our own thinking more than we are, or can get that down. But then we can also kind of start doing that to other people as well and helping them get to the right states. So that's kind of what they were doing. And then they, of course, argued, because that's what partners do a lot of times, start splitting off in different directions. And then it's been used in all kinds of things, all the way to, you know,
Was there an NLP right and an NLP left? Then you had to choose.
When did the CIA get involved? Because I heard the CIA got involved.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy. Like, we've got CIA, our military, other countries. I mean, military uses this stuff. It works.
Well,
and what
yeah.
they love about it is that they call it pseudoscience, right? They're like, there's no back to this. There's no scientific proof. And so I think a lot of times they're like, yeah, let's keep going with that. There's no proof. It doesn't really work, when really getting used left and right. So basically nowadays, any self-help book you're reading, there's NLP at the base of that. What's going on?
How much does that suck, being you and being able to be like, Jesus Christ, can you just stop it already? I know what you're doing.
Dating apps are fun.
Oh yeah.
Are you NLPing prospective dates?
Once you know
I'm
it,
not doing that.
I'm not doing it. I don't know what you mean.
Right? It's just, yeah, once you kind of get it down, it's like you're saying meditation. I don't know that I really sit and meditate, but I can get myself wherever I need to, just using, you know, kind of remapping resources. Because once you start doing that, yeah, you can't help it. It just starts happening. So yeah, it's every self-help book. It's in our military, we're using it to figure things out. People are using it, in dating and all the stuff without even knowing it, because they read it in some self-help book. They don't realize it. And now you can even watch, there's a documentary called The Vow, I think is what it's called, on Netflix or whatever. And it's about, you know, Nexium, this whole group that this guy came out and they're like,
that guy.
Brilliant. And actually what he's doing is brilliant. If you actually watch the documentary, the techniques they're using do work. It is brilliant because it's all based on NLP. Like, he's paying for it all, but it's not him. So it does work. He just happened to be crazy, and that's why there's a documentary now.
Yeah, that's why that happened. Yeah. And
so
like,
is it a cult?
Yeah.
Nexium, yeah. You never saw
it, right?
Oh, dude, this guy.
No, like, I gotta watch what I consume, because half the time I get bad ideas.
Yeah.
And then the other half of the time I'm fearful for other people.
Right.
It's spelled weird, like Nexium, like, is a V instead of a U or something.
Here I am thinking it's an antacid.
Yeah.
Right? No.
Yeah, no, it's
part of the whole thing. And they were helping people do exactly what I do. So I'm always like, please don't go watch this. It's what I do, because it works. But at the same time, then of course you've got the manipulator that starts turning it in the wrong direction. But there's actually a ton of people, thousands of people that got great stuff out of it, because
isn't that even Tony Robbins, right? That's the majority of what he's doing, right?
It is. It's exactly what he's doing.
And
it's at the core of all that.
Masterclass has got Chris Voss has a masterclass on negotiating with terrorists, and that dude's a fucking ninja. Right. I don't care what you say. Yeah, that guy's amazing. I mean, just him saying hello is NLP, like, because you're just like, yes, I will listen to everything you say. You're right. Like, I don't know what it is about that dude. I could listen to him talk about literally anything. He's so calming. It's crazy.
He's super calming. And that's the thing, is it's all about communication, right? It's really getting into, and actually it sounds really probably not intelligent, but I actually go out of my way to make sure, or try not to be using it all the time, because I do know it. I need people to know that I'm genuinely coming forward. But if I need to go into it, because I think it'll help one of my clients, then I can jump right into it. But it is very much your tone. It's your pacing. It's your body language. It's your word choice. There are just very, very hypnotic things that people can do. And you don't realize it. You know, you see all these like commercials or I don't know, it's more like TikTok videos these days of, you know, the subliminal things and all of our whatever. But that's what this is. It's subliminal. It's just coming in from behind and you can help people completely in 5 minutes. All of a sudden, someone who refuses to ever clean a closet, don't make me have to do that. They're like, I love cleaning closets. And you're just going, how did that happen? It's just because you shifted.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they will walk away going, I don't know why that just worked, but it did.
So how did you get into that? You didn't start here, right?
Yeah.
Like you didn't start in NLP.
My story? No. Yeah. I didn't actually. I was doing grief. That's still something I do a lot of work in is grief recovery. I want to teach people not to cope with it, but how to actually recover from all the that life has handed you. So we actually go in and clean that out. And so while I was doing that, I just started getting interested in more and more ways. How can we go in and reprogram the brain? And that's really because like with grief, it's all about these core beliefs. And I did a lot of work with that. And so transformation of your core beliefs. You believe these things from like 0 to 5. That's when the majority of your core beliefs were started, right? Or put into you. So how do we go find them and reprogram them? So I learned the long way to do it. And then someone brought me NLP and they're like, it's the same work, but you can do it.
And if you know the long way, doing it the shorter way, if it doesn't work, you're infinitely more suited to navigate the next step than somebody who didn't have that backdrop, right? And that was it was kind of why I asked the question, because you and I have spoken before about a little bit about this. So like I do remember, although it has been a while, we talked like a while ago. Like
it's been a minute.
Yeah.
I like to use the long way. That's still my process.
Yeah.
But what I'll do is I'll implement all the some different exercises.
I like that.
Speed some pieces up. Because a lot of times if I'm working, you know, with executives who are like, I don't have time for whatever, then I can give them a nugget or two of NLP and they will see such a huge change that they'll come back. And now
for the long work.
Now we're going to go deep.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we'd be remiss if we didn't at least mention the sort of other side. I mean, we've kind of hinted at it, but like NLP does get a bit of a bad rap. And I do want to spend the majority of our time talking about the good stuff, but like, let's get the shady side out of the way, right?
You
like,
know what?
I mean,
I gotta chime in here because Amazon, if you search NLP on Amazon, the dirty tricks of the CIA is like in that top list of books that come up when you search NLP.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking more along like the guy, the sleazy guy with the comb over doing NLP to a bunch of nerds in a library, teaching them how to pick up women.
That was a reality TV show, right? They had some giant looking douchebag.
Yeah, I mean,
like here's how you get laid, guys.
Yeah, and it's like so I have asked many people if they've ever heard of NLP, like not just because of this show, but because like, or they say, hey, what do you talk about on the show? And I'm like, oh, we've talked about this. And NLP has come up. And they're like, oh, so you teach dudes how to hit on chicks. And I was like, no. Why would you say that? Hey, I mean, like,
that sounds horrible.
Yeah, like, what do you say? And so, but enough people have said that where I'm like, all right, so more than nobody thinks that this is what NLP is. So
and I actually had somebody that Matt and I both worked with who's a coach. I said, hey, man, did you just NLP me? And he goes, oh, that's unethical. Like he really kind of backed away from it. He was really like, you know, he basically said, look, you don't need to smoke weed. You shouldn't be smoking weed. And then I'm like, dude, I went and tried to get high the other day. And it was horrible.
Yeah.
And why'd you ruin weed for me?
Yeah.
And he's like, I didn't do that. You just know it's not good for you. And I'm like, no, you said you did something to me.
Yeah, you know, like there is it's really funny. There's directness with it and total manipulation all at the same time. It's directly manipulative. It's really crazy. So yeah, I mean, he might have NLP too, just a little, or he just threw Bruce, who knows? I don't know.
Dash of NLP in there to spice things up.
Well, but he was like offended that I said that to him. And I was like, he's like, you make choices on your own free will. And I'm like, I think that's what NLP would tell me.
This is true. Yeah. I mean, you have to be really careful. Even if you're getting trained in it, you want to really be careful who you're working with, because here's the deal. Sleazy guys, and honestly, a big thing that it targets in the main society, like if you're not looking military, that we can talk about that too, but like main society, it's really targeted for manipulation in relationships and in sales.
Sure.
So
Sales makes all the sense.
Sales makes all the sense. Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's literally just pages. I mean, you can get books and books on NLP and how to incorporate that into your sales. And if you start looking at it, none of it's new news. It's literally everything that you like avoid that guy when you walk by. It's all the things he's trying to do, because he's not smooth at it. He's not good at it, but he's trying to like implement it. So every sales technique is coming out of the same basic idea. And so you're trying to hit people's emotions and their feelings, which is the subconscious. And you're trying to just like make these things sort of meet. Facts are in your conscious, and then you've got feelings, emotions, and all your data stored in your subconscious. So they're like, if we can just sort of give you a few facts, but then jump into emotionally affect you, you're going to buy. Whether like, you're going to buy that I'm a great guy to go out on a date with or whatever. And so it's pulling at your emotions. And sometimes like being the super direct of, you need to just stop doing that. Right? I mean, that can shake you up a little bit and go, that just skipped past my factual brain and went right into like, whoa, he's like telling me what to do like a dad over here.
Yeah.
You get a little shaken up. And so it affects you. But yeah, when you look it up, if you look up books on Amazon, I thought that's where you're going to go for a second, like with NLP, you will literally see all the history and things you can learn. And that will be what's called dark NLP. And it's literally called the dark side.
And
that summarily, all the comb over guy and all his friends are all in that group.
Not to get political here, but no, I'm not going to do it. There's a certain population that's better at receiving NLP than others.
Stop it, Tom.
All right.
Yeah, it's you know what? I think manipulation is something any of us can do, but when you give people a roadmap how to do it,
sure. Yeah.
It's not pretty. And so, actually that was a big thing. People brought that to me because it could help reprogram. And ironically, also, I had someone that I knew that was going into it and they were going to learn it. And I thought, well, if you're going to do this, I want to know what you're knowing. So it's kind of that combative, like, the more you know about it, you can see it coming on. That's one of the things I actually like learning about it. But in the wrong hands, it's not pretty.
It's really funny because for my side, I'm like, I'll go really deep on anything that really moves me, but NLP and hypnosis and this as a practitioner side never really spoke to me. What you just said though understanding the signs and methods and techniques so that I could recognize them being deployed against me.
Yeah, it's almost like a defense. You want to know the defensive part of it.
Is extremely interesting to me. So like when I get sold things, or if I'm getting NLP, I smirked when he said that to Tom, because I'm like,
it's a new verb.
Yes, of course he did, Tom. I mean, weren't you listening?
Well, no, I challenged him on it. I thought I was like, look at me. And I'm like, oh shit, he still fucked with me.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, I feel more confident in that. It's like, I've been doing jujitsu for 20 something years, right? Like I feel more confident in a physical alteration, not. It
almost
so
feels like that's what it is.
Not,
like
right?
we're playing mental chess here.
Yeah.
And
so
like an offense defense kind of thing. If you see someone pulling rapport with you, which is one of the most common things, and again, a lot of these people, if you said, oh, that's NLP, they're like, no, it's not. That's just whatever, because they've learned it in some other book.
Sure.
That's always where it originated. So if anyone's doing rapport, if I'm starting to just kind of, I'm talking with you and you've got this
mirroring me and stuff. Yeah.
Right? It's these simple things that I can do that without even thinking about it, and then shift with you and shoulder.
Yeah.
It's really crazy. So once you recognize these things, then all of a sudden when people start doing things, you're like, they're moving it. So then you start testing them and you're like,
yeah.
You just like
so
stick your
almost
finger
like
in
the
your nose.
good
like,
cop, bad cop is like those roles, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Just picking your ear and eating it afterwards. Like, what? What's the matter? What's the problem?
Right? Yeah. So if you start mirroring and echoing what they're doing, you're pulling rapport. If you start slowing your pace when they slow their pace of talk, or you speed it up, you raise with them, go down with them, you're just sort of doing that thermometer thing where I'm going to go where you go. And basically, though, all you need to know is if all of a sudden you're talking to someone and for no good reason, you just feel really like rolling with them. You're just in tune. You guys are rocking along. Either, there's just like the soul connection. Maybe that's there, but you might want to check the fact that if they know how to roll with you, they've learned how to do that. And again, so many people are manipulative this way and knowing what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So that kind of goes back to the founders, right? They didn't like create these steps. They actually went and observed.
Yeah.
This is different. They observed what people do who are successful at getting people to do what they want them to.
Right.
And so
like, why is this person so good at this? Like, what? Yeah.
Right.
Why are they so suave? Why are they getting what they want when other people can't? Yeah.
So someone raised up in a house that had a parent that was really good at this, they're going to pick up those things too. It's not like they picked up an NLP book, right? They're just doing these traits. All these guys did was collect that data and go, okay, how do we actually intentionally use it? And so they started writing out, kind of mapping how to do that, and how do we actually use very specific language and tone.
Sure.
So if you want to stop a habit, start a habit, reframe your thinking on something, or if you're in the middle of war, right, and you're looking at horrific things, how can we check you out really quickly? How can we help you dissociate on purpose before your brain does it to protect you?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
it definitely does. That's crazy, by the way. That's a nutty use case.
It's funny. Now you brought up war. I treated a Vietnam vet years ago, and he was like, look, I'm seeing my friends get killed, but like they just go into a box. Like in his head, they just go into a box. It's not, and I think he did that as a defense, like self-preservation kind of method. But like, is that kind of like an NLP to himself, or is that more of just like a survival tactic there?
It's both. Like, I mean, a lot of what that's doing is I'm going to place this in a different perspective, because that's how I'm going to survive what I just witnessed. Disassociation, when it happens to you because your trauma responses and part of your brain are going to go, we're just going to protect you. They disassociate. Your brain may do it for you so much that you can't go get help later. Or it's really hard to get help because you detach from it so much, you won't pull it. But if you have a technique where you go, too much, I'm going to use this resource to step over here, then you're able to get the job done and go deal with that later if need be.
I gotcha.
So it's kind of an intentional survival technique by disassociating, going into a different place with it.
So Holly, then a follow-up question here, because this is kind of interesting to me, because I see a lot of people with PTSD. Right. So if they disassociate, are they better off, I guess, not dealing with it ever? Or is that going to make more problems in the long run? I know that's like a loaded, tricky question right there. But
you're going to get different answers from different people, right?
Okay.
One of the things that you're going to get from me, because I work very specifically with grief a lot and PTSD and these kind of things, and helping people not be anxious, not get triggered, is that from all that I see in the research of the brain, is that we do need to go find it. And we do need to do something with it, clean it out. Because otherwise it's affecting you. Like if someone has trauma when they're 4 or 3 years old, right? But they're like, I don't remember what happened when I'm 3. They've checked out of that. Actually, it's still fully affecting their decision making. Because again, your core beliefs are mostly between 0 and 5, right? So, or if something traumatic happens in war or something later. So if we don't go in and find it and clean it out, it's still affecting how you function. Because it's still telling your brain, warning, this is scary. And your brain's like, well, I don't know why. But your subconscious is saying, well, it is, trust us. And so you're going to react. This is the guy that gets back from war and he's driving down the road and he's dodging trash and nearly hitting someone. Why? Because he thinks it's a bomb. So we need to go in there and go, we got to find that and remove that survival trick you're doing with yourself, because now you're going to kill someone on the highway.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's wild stuff. But like, I guess when you're in the middle of sort of, obviously there's a lot of sort of game time decisions you got to make when you're talking to somebody in this manner, because you've got sort of pretty powerful weapon, and you kind of need to selectively use it, right? Even like what you were saying earlier, like I tried not to do it until I have to, kind of thing. Like how much of this is like made infinitely better by a comprehensive knowledge of psychology? Because although that doesn't necessarily, like, it would help you. I don't know.
It's not a one-to-one.
It's not a one-to-one, but I feel like it would be like incredibly helpful information in this particular
Yeah,
way.
I mean, I think that I think for me, the psychology of it all, but psychology is always changing. I think that's why I'm a coach more than I'm anything.
Right.
And it's because psychology is always changing, and they're like, this is what it is. And then 3 months later, oh, wait, this is what it is. And
Yeah,
so you're like,
just kidding.
okay,
It's just a cigar.
Yeah, yeah.
It's ever changing. So for me, I love the science of the brain. When we're really looking at, okay, when we put people under, we've got them strapped in and we're looking at different reactions their brain is doing. Let's look at what the brain is doing instead of just psychoanalyzing whatever. That's what I love, is going, okay, this is how it shoots off. So what we're doing with this is reprogramming the way it's going.
Yeah.
How can we do that? That's, and so when I'm talking to somebody, one, I'm looking for, how deep is this for you? Right? Because when we get something programmed in our brain and then we just validate it over and over. So when people come in and they'll say to me, do I just have, do this to me on my brain, like written on my forehead? Do I have a sign on my forehead to jack with me or do this to me?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you do. Like, you literally do.
You actually, yes.
Or how many times do we hear, why do I always choose these people as my partner, right?
Right, because you've decided something and you are just staying in that trap in your brain and digging it in deeper and deeper and deeper. If you picture like taking a pencil in wood, right, and just going over and over the same line, every time you choose that same situation or you so-called find yourself in it, which really is subconsciously choosing it, because even if you hate it, it's what feels comfortable.
Sure.
Right. So you just keep going back to it and validating over and over. So what we have to do is reprogram your thinking and how your conscious and subconscious works together so that we can lift you out of that. And my goal with grief healing is to clean it in, fill it in, like don't even go down that track again.
Yeah.
And then we've got to redesign a new one. And so that's what this does, is it's redesigning your thinking into a new direction and sometimes even figuring out what you want. Getting people out of their own way is one of my favorite things with NLP, because I can get them to a place where just doing some different things of just going back into, what is your brain telling you want? And they're just like, well, I can't do that. I can't afford that. I can't, I'm like, shut up, please shut up. Like, just be quiet. And where did your brain jump to? And they're like, wildflowers. I don't know. They go somewhere crazy. And I'm like, okay, let's explore that. And we start digging into it. And next thing you know, we're finding out what they really want and what's really been fearful for them or really going on for them deep down. But all these like things, their conscious brain is saying, oh, you can't do that. You can't afford that. You can't get that girl. You can't whatever. We got to get out of that. And so that's what this does. It takes us into the subconscious and then we tell the conscious what to think now.
Huh. So it's real interesting because you're talking about this like pencil into the wood thing. And that's how we make new physical neuron and neural connections in the brain, right? We repeatedly do something and then we make that physical pathway. And this idea that we're doing that with our thoughts as well, which are not quote unquote hardwired, well, they kind of sound like they are then.
They always believe that they were. They're so hardwired, we can't do anything with it. Really, it's just deeply rooted, right? Like, it's just growing deep roots. We got to pull those roots out. So the wiring has gone deep, but it can be completely filled in and rewired. So that, I don't know, that's the exciting part to me, is that we can go find something else to anchor in, find something else to decide this is what I want. And so someone comes to me and they say, I want to learn how to keep a clean house and I'm a disaster. And science can tell us, well, maybe you have, an ADD brain, maybe you've got neurodivergency going on here. But at the same time, if you want it, we can go in there and really get your conscious to tell your subconscious and then reverse that back and forth, that this is what you want. And then what we do is find anchors or the resources we need for that. So an anchor is something that, if I, kind of like you were saying with the bird chirp, right? When I think, and we decide together, they decide on something. And when you see this or think of it, it's going to trigger going down that path again. So it's like, oh my word, my house is a disaster. And if we've set in motion by doing some of the activities we do, that wildflowers is what makes you think of a clean house, then all they have to do is keep a picture of it or think of it or smell flowers, and they start cleaning. Like it just triggers
It's funny
them.
because that's like a basis of hypnosis. I mean, you see that a lot.
Yeah. You know, you almost, that's what I was going to ask. Because if you're like, you know, so hypnosis, they might do like regression. We're going to take you back to that age. What would be, if it is like an early childhood trauma or something like that, what is the NLP kind of equivalent? Is this similar? Are we going back to that time when this happened, even if it's not consciously remembered?
Sometimes, but it's not like hypnosis where you may stay there for a while. NLP, very small doses, right? So I'm going to take you just to find one quick thing each time, but that one quick thing, when we bring it back and really witness it and see it in different ways, I can take you into where we do a meta position where we're going to watch something that happened as a child, but you're going to see it as yourself. Then you're going to see it as the other person. Then you're going to step back and see it in meta. You're going to find things in that, but then we're going to get you out of that. And now we're going to work with it, where hypnosis is going to do the work kind of in that hypnotic state.
Yeah.
We're going to go into it. And it's not hypnosis necessarily, but it is similar in the way that it's a pacing of my language, the words that I choose, right? I'm really trying to get people to see, smell, hear every part of it. And when we do resourcing, you know, that's the whole idea that you have everything you need to succeed inside. NLP is actually quite positive in the fact that they tell you everything that you have created for yourself had a good intention. So it's like if you have a short temper, well, at some point in your life, you develop that with good intention to protect yourself, right? So everything we do is with good intention, but it may not actually be working out. So we have to change them. And so what we want to do with resources is everything you need is already in you. And the idea is we'll do ideas kind of like hypnosis, but it's not. It's just taking that pace. And so if they say to me, I have got to learn patience, I am like, I'm going to kill somebody on the road. Like, I can't do this, right? Then we're going to find a time they've been patient. When were you really patient? Like, you're like, dang, I did that. I can't believe I didn't, attack that person. You stay patient. And we're going to go sit in that moment. And I'm going to talk them very slowly through it. And we're going to go, okay, what does it feel like? What does patience look like? What color is it? And you're going to add all these elements to patience. And then I'm going to say, where is it in your body? And so it's amazing when you do this and you talk someone through it, it'll be different for every person. They're like, oh, it's a rod across my shoulders.
Yeah.
Or, oh, it's this thing right here in my stomach. Or, oh, I can feel it right on my temples. And they'll find where patience is. And then we practice going in and out of patience so that then when something happens and they need to be patient, they know where it is in their body and they can call it up.
I always love it because it's like, she's talking like Chinese medicine. You touch different areas of your body. And it's like, oh, this relates to that. And you said this. And it's pretty interesting,
Uh-oh.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we're
there
here.
you go. And it's funny because when we cut that back together, it's actually going to have no pause in it at all.
It's so great. They'll fix it. The people will be like, what the hell are they talking about?
Yeah. What are they talking about? Why did everybody just talk over each other for 2 seconds? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so I guess let me ask you this. When you're when you're going into this, and I didn't mean to imply that it was the same experience at all. I was kind of noting that it's funny because hypnosis does borrow that piece of NLP quite a bit, or they both were sort of sourced from the same spot, like one of the two things, right? Like, but they do share that piece in common. But let me ask you this. When you're working with somebody, are you sort of taking their conscious description of what they want and kind of working in that direction? Or are you sort of teasing it out of them through their subconscious and then listening to that answer? Like, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, I'm trying to get them out of their conscience and into subconscious because the conscious is going to talk us out of everything, right? This is like, and it got that information at some point from the subconscious, like danger, danger, and so the conscious goes, I won't do that. Like, that's not okay. And so we have to get past that and get back into the subconscious and go, okay, where's that originating? And let's change it in the subconscious. let's change that feeling that you have about it, that it's not scary anymore. Or
It
that,
should be
oh my
clear
Lord, I
that
love doing that.
I should be clear. My conscious is not usually telling me not to do something.
Yeah, you know, like I'm wondering
I'm
too,
not
like,
normal. I get it, but
is there like an induction? Is there a similarity in that, or does it just start? You know, we just start talking and we go. You know, it's not like, hey, listen to the sound of my voice,
it's
or
been 34 minutes, Tom. Well, you tell me.
I don't know, man. All I know is I'm going to eat another one of these cookies in a second.
Yeah.
So you mean when I'm working with someone, do I
Yeah,
kind of...
when you're like one-on-one with a client, is there like, because clearly there are techniques and there's rules and there's ways of doing it, but is there like here's how we open? Is there a way to
Usually,
get me into you?
yes, if
Well,
someone, I'll let, that's the way I choose to do it. I let people know, like, these are some techniques we're going to use. And so I'll say, hey, we're going to grab an exercise from NLP. So let's go into this. And because I also really love to get them up and moving. NLP is very body involved when we can. So if you stand over here, but now you move over there across the room and you do different things like this. And so if I can get them up and moving, they know what we're doing, and I'm going to walk them through the exercise. They're usually really excited, especially if I do one. They will see and feel and know the difference immediately. And so they're like, let's do more. I mean, they get really excited. You can, though, be creating a situation where you're asking questions and doing these things, and the person has no idea that you're pulling this out of them that way.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, and that's kind of what I love about, I guess, this topic of just wacky health that we talk about here as a generality. Like, what I like about that the most is this knowledge that we are just like little erector sets, right? Like, I mean, we're just a chemistry set.
you
Like,
definitely tinker.
you could just kind of like you could mod it out any which way you want. And I kind of love that concept, because when something is bothering you, like, one of the greatest tools I have in my life now is the knowledge that I've had a gazillion of these conversations. I'm like, you know what? I heard this thing one time. I'm going to go try this out because I've got this very unique problem. And I love that a little jealous. You get like a front row seat of that sort of transformation on a case by case basis. It's really cool.
It's the coolest job ever. Like,
yeah,
it
no, it sounds very
watching
awesome.
people get well. You know what I mean? And places they never ever thought they could. And that we can do it even if I go the long route, we can do it in a couple of weeks. It's not years of therapy.
Right.
So I love that. I like that we can go in and make those changes. And yeah, it's definitely, it's something that if people would understand that, a couple things, first of all, people have to understand a basic, and this is more psychology, but that no one can make you anything.
Sure.
And I love teaching people that. And it's finally out in books and people are talking about it. But for the longest time, no one did. No one can make you happy. No one can make you mad. No one can make you hurt, right? You have to allow them to do that. So you're in charge of that. And by taking that power back, then we don't have to wait on someone to apologize or someone to fix it, or for the bomb not to have gone off in the war. We don't have to have it get fixed for us to feel better. We get to decide, I'm going to work through it and I'm going to be done now.
Right.
And so once people have that comprehension, then they can do this work and do it themselves. They're not waiting on someone else to fix whatever's not quite, either they have bad habits or they have addictions or they have trauma and PTSD. They don't have to wait for someone else to fix it. If someone will just give them the tools and walk with them, it can go away. It can change. It can get better. Super cool.
Sounds, it's so funny when you're talking about that. Like, here in my head, I'm hearing like Marcus Aurelius. I'm hearing some stoicism. Like, you can't control how I feel.
Yeah.
That's on me. And then my big question for you, Holly, because I'm going to go, start reading some books. Can I do this to myself?
Yes.
Like I don't need somebody working on me. I can NLP, now it's a verb, myself.
Right. We're going to NLP ourselves. You can't, I mean, the thing is, definitely it's great to work with someone and have someone walk you through it, because then you're not overthinking the process. It is really great to work with someone for at least a little while and have them even do just a few with you, because then you're not thinking, you're going into the state that they want you to be in. But yeah, the more that you do it, you're able to sit there and go, okay, I'm going to walk through this process and I'm going to get myself there. So it's kind of like meditation in the fact that the more you practice it, the more you can get yourself there, you can do that. But you also probably began with someone walking you through meditation, right?
Yeah.
It's the
Right.
same idea.
Yeah. How to teach her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tapping, that's like my experience with tapping to a T. Like the first 10 times I did it, I had somebody taking me through it. And then she was basically like, I think you're good, man. Just you can do this. And that was a bit ago. And I don't do it very frequently, but when I do, I can get back in that spot real fast, like myself. Right. And I don't know if it's muscle memory or whatever, but I can, Holly, I can totally envision what you're talking about, because I think, especially if you've built up any form of vocabulary about self-help of any kind, right? Like if you have any backdrop, you should be able to attach these things to those things and kind of, force multiply that over other problems.
Well, it's like they're all playing in the same orchestra. They're just playing different instruments. They're all related to each other enough where this is how your brain works, and we're just getting into it over here rather than over there. At least that's what it sounds like.
Right. It's learning to, and that's why it's such a hard word, right? We hear manipulation, and that's terrible. But the reality is, if we can learn how to manipulate our brain for good purpose, right? To go, okay, this isn't working for me. And we really kind of did it when we were younger anyway. We convinced ourselves something to protect ourselves. And now we recognize, okay, well, that one's still working for me, but this one's not. Right. And so they all work together. They're all different forms of manipulating the brain in some way, but hopefully in a positive, good way, getting yourself to a better state. And it is in our control to be able to do that. I think that, what's so crazy, and another thing I work with people about is, because it's at the root of every person I work with, is control. Oh my goodness, the issue of control. So, when I get to people and I get to explain to them, you literally have control over 3 things, and that's it. And I love when I get people that want to argue. I'm like, bring it. But you can control your thoughts, your words, and your actions. That's it. You have no control over anything else. They'll be like, well, I can control what I eat. I can control my job. And I'm like, let's do this. Because at the end of the day, it's going to come down to your thoughts, your words, your actions.
Right.
So
these are just different ways of saying those things. Yeah.
Right. What's crazy is that we spend all this time trying to control everything else. Like, that's when NLP goes dark. When you're trying to use it to control other people, we try to control relationships. We try to control all this stuff. It doesn't work. But if you put that time to, like what you're saying, play the orchestra, right? Use meditation, use tapping, these techniques of finding your resource and having that pulled up, then you're actually being productive.
Now, you kind of laughed and made a comment about control. Is that related? I know you do a lot of corporate work. Is that sort of where you're seeing that rear its head often, or just a general rule? It doesn't matter where it's coming from.
Every human I work with.
Yeah, right. I gotcha. Got it. Perfect.
Well, Matt, look at our systems, right? First, it's your family kind of telling you what you're going to do and not do. It's your religion. It's your, schooling. It's all the way through. You see it.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. This is one of those things that sort of makes sense after somebody said it out loud, but you're kind of knew it all along, but you just never really thought to articulate it. You're like, oh yeah, that's totally I get it.
Yeah. All of our control issues that every single one of us are battling, small or big, it's all coming from fear. Every single time. At the bottom of that control is constantly fear. So it's if I don't control this situation, it might hurt me.
Tom and I are recovering Catholics. We get it.
They might hurt me.
I disagreed with the priest that came into my office today, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is when the lightning hits me.
Yeah. No, I was K through 12. My trauma happened K through 12. It never stopped happening. It was just
ongoing.
Ongoing. Yeah. Which is just funny because my great grandmother was from the Azores, literally emigrated from, there's a picture my brother found of her on Ancestry where she was the queen of 15-year-old queen of some patron saint of Portugal, something or other. I don't know, but very, very religious. So I knew my great grandmother, and I was on the off ramp of Catholic, everything at the time when she died. And I was like, nothing we have literally no common ground on this topic of any kind. No, I can't have a conversation.
Yeah. The
But
fears.
lots of structure, lots of control. It's all about all that. It's like literally a way of life.
It is. And it's funny because if you're controlled, you're trying to break out and get your own control. If you have a lifetime where you grow up with no structure, no control, whatever, and you're just left to all your own, you're just flailing about, trying to get control because everything feels so out of control.
Right.
I mean, that's really what it's about. But at the end of the day, if you get self-control, you're good, no matter what's happening around you. And that's what I love about this. That's where it gets positive. Any of these things that we're doing is we're taking back that self-control.
Sure.
And so when people are like, if I just imagine it, I can make it happen. Well, I work with people where we bring it from the back of the mind, put it on paper, draw the apacheta, like a moment where you see it. And yes, it does start happening because now you know what you want.
Sure.
But that's not what created it. It's still about this self-control of I'm not just going to blow it away. I'm going to get really intentional. So, that goes into that kind of thing versus running in circles, trying to control everything around you just because it feels nuts.
Which 10 of those people right now that you could probably name if we had to. You know what I mean? Like I know 10 of those people, like we all do, right? It's like that just seems like a normal thing, right? And I think that's where I've learned as I get older, and it's accelerating now, by the way. I am more eager to learn more things quicker that control my own state than almost anything else, right? Like, so I'm like prioritizing things that I know are like state levers, not necessarily because I have an acute problem now, but because I want a bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger toolbox.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. For when shit hits the fan, either for me or my family or my friends or my clients or, or anybody or the guy I met on the bus, right? Like it could be anybody, but when somebody's got a problem and you've got state control magic, that's really super powerful.
Well, and it's honestly, you hear about it, not so many culture things now, the word authentic,
right?
And they've seen that like the highest state we can be is gratefulness, but the next highest state above that is actually authenticity. And so it's like, even though we're doing this like manipulation of the mind to get it in the right state and the right whatever, it's getting us to the clearer path. And we need that because honestly, what we're basically trying to do is get rid of all those outside distractions, outside whatever. And so, being able to have that state of self-control and getting yourself where you need to be is getting closer to your authentic self.
Right.
It just really is. We're not meant to be so reactive to absolutely everything. That's a fear. That's just things that have been built in over time. And so if we can go, I'm good, even if everything's exploding around me, that doesn't make us crazy. That makes us closer and closer to our actual ability to be who we are, like our actual self.
And I think how I interpret that when you said, helps you get closer to your authentic self, I think all of our authentic selves, but specifically I can speak only for myself, is a conversation like this where I'm really not concerned about anything other than this present moment. That is authentic to me, right? Like that is authentic because I'm not thinking about anything but this, right? Like I'm not thinking about what client work I didn't reply to or anything. Like I'm not worried about my religious grandmother, like nothing. Like nothing is on my mind except for this. And I think if so many of us don't have that option at any point in our day, right? Like at no point in your day are you like, I am thinking about nothing but the present moment. Most people I know are fucking everything up in the present moment because they're trying to plot 8 moments from now.
Yeah,
and
100%.
like, it's like, and then I'm like, wow, what a luxury it is to have control over your own state. What a fucking concept. It's like, and I'm not great at this. Trust me, I'm a fucking mess, but
it takes practice, right? Yeah. One of the first things when people sign on with me and we meet the first time, the first challenge, I can't remember if I shared this with you. The first thing I tell them they have to do, because I give homework every time, I'm like, first thing you have to do is go 100% truthful. And they're like, okay, I'm truthful. Either they say I'm a truthful person or they start laughing because they're like, you don't want me to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you have to get 100% truthful all the time. And so part of that, I start explaining what that means, right? And yes, get truthful with if you're not showing up to work today, why, and even if it just means I didn't make it, like, just don't make up a story, right? Stay truthful. Right. If your wife says, does my butt look big in the jeans? You say, I like those pants better. I mean, there's a safe way to be truthful and stay in it. But I'm talking more about in your own head. Like, how many times we're like, can't do that. Like, that's too hard. I'm too exhausted, all these things, right? Or even I am tired. I am hungry. That's a lie. You're creating that as an identity, saying I am. You should say, I feel hungry. I feel tired, right? So really watching your words to speak truth. And then they look at me like, that's exhausting. I'm like, it is. But then when you're in the shower and you're having an argument with someone that you got to talk to later, and you're like already working out that argument, like, you're literally living a lie in that moment because the future hasn't happened yet. Right. It's completely a lie. There's no truth in the future. And you can't sit there and rehash an argument you had this morning with your spouse and go, and if I could say it this way, right? Because it's already happened and the past is a lie. No two people remember the same. So the only place truth remains is in the present moment. So if you're going to live in truth, you have to get truthful in your thoughts, quit saying crap that's not true in your own head, much less to other people. And you've got to stay present all the time. So I tell people, you can take a quick vacation to the future and be like, hey, I need to save money because I want to buy this house. Cool. What am I going to do? Cool. 30 minutes done, and jump back. You can go back and work with a coach or a therapist and go, what happened back here? Let's look at that. Let's unpack it and then get back. But I'm like, you've got to stay present. So it's even down to like, I make my people, I'm like 5 to 5:15, you check emails. 8 to 8:30, you check emails. Otherwise, you don't check your emails. You know what I mean? Like, when you're doing something, if you feel when we do practices, when your mind starts to go off, how to snap it back in, like how to get right back to presence, because it's the only place truth lives.
Right. And that's really a lesson that I've had to learn the hard way in tech, because, you try to think that, hey, if I can answer 8 of these emails at once, I'm doing it better. But then you realize that, like, in a world of nuance, not being present, you gloss over that. You go just a little too fast around that next corner, and, it's not the same experience. And so it's really tough. And you're right. You hit the nail on the head. It hit home dead center. I was like, yeah, it's a full-time job staying present, but you got to do it. It's the only way to not succumb to that. Right. And I don't know when this episode airs, but we just had the election, and now's a good time to remember shit like that, because everyone's all up in arms one way or the other. Like, everyone's all tense, and it's all these future tense arguments they're having, right? Like, it hasn't happened yet. Nothing's happened, right? Like, everybody just calm the fuck down, right? And you can't. We just can't. Like, you're bombarded every minute with a million reasons not to stay present. And
it's literally living life at the NFL pregame.
Right.
The 4 hours of commentary of what's going to happen possibly in the game. And don't get me wrong, I love football, but this is the dumbest use of time for your brain ever. We're going to debate all the things that could happen and why. I'm like, just go have a beer and show back up and watch the game. Let's see what happens.
And I think that the problem with that is that it's easy to not have that clarity. It's actually much easier to not have that clarity.
While you're saying that, I'm sitting here, I'm still stuck on the fact that people don't have thoughts in the shower.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck are you doing in the shower? I'm like scrubbing, going, oh my God, everything's on fire.
Yeah.
Like, I was just standing there washing like some kind of maniac.
Yeah. So if you have to quit having thoughts in the shower, in the whatever, here's what I love, and this is a little tidbit, and you guys will love this, but this is brain science, and I'm so glad they're finally publishing this. When I have people stop having these like future and past thoughts, the way to stay present, because I start them with, look, I have toes and I have soap, and we go really simple, because not. The first time you do it, you'll be shocked how many times your brain goes in a whole different direction. You'll be like, oh yeah, I didn't pick up that thing.
I assure you, I would not be shocked.
And you'll have to pull your thoughts back in. I swear, when I did it the first time, it was hundreds of times in one shower. I'm like, this is crazy. I could solve more problems. But
just hundreds?
That's what are you, a fucking amateur, Holly? Come on, Jesus Christ.
Numbers, Holly. You got to pump up those numbers.
I'm a mom. I get like a 2-second shower. Not long. But the reality is that I'd start bringing people to the thought, and this is going to sound cheesy and cliche, but go with me on this, is that you bring them to the thought of gratefulness. And the reason being, and that's been, it's on everybody's crocheted pillow. But the reality is that this brain science behind it is that we get to look at the brain. And when we put into somebody, we start telling them to have thoughts of gratefulness, it blacks out everything else. So when you're having grateful thoughts, there's no room for other thoughts.
I love that.
It's the coolest thing ever. And I love it. And so what happens is when you're in the shower or driving your car or all the places that you should be like present, so you know if you're about to run a red light, but you're totally everywhere else. If you catch yourself going off, the way to replace that is to replace it with grateful. Even if it's like, I'm alive, I got a coffee today, that's great. Like it could be the dumbest thing, but if you switch to gratefulness, you will block out. And this goes for anxiety. This goes for like everything else. If you can shift into a state of gratefulness, you literally leave no room in your brain for all the other thoughts that are going on. So
that's
that will
crazy.
halt the argument. I also teach people kind of like a dream that you wake up and you're like, wait, go back to sleep. I want to finish it. I'm like, don't do that with your thoughts. If you catch yourself in a really stupid future path, self-deprecating thought, immediately halt it. And that's your power. Right? Don't go, well, I got to finish this dumb argument in my head real quick. And then
I just got to finish it. Yeah.
Like halt it. That's your power to just like sever it and go, I'm not going to finish that.
Well, that sounds so scary to me.
It's crazy.
Like not completing a thought.
Do it.
I can't remember the name of it, but did you see that there's a new drug that just hit the market or is about to that actually stops rumination? And so it's like a pharmacological intervention for what you're talking about right now, where it's like, no, we're going to flip this fucking thing out. Going back to what we were just talking about, though, I think that it's way harder to fucking stop that downward spiral than it is to just make some popcorn and dive in. You know what I mean? Like so much so that somebody went out and made a drug for just that. Like,
right. But again, it's so crazy because that's what I did. I remember, and I did this in my own life, right? Why would I try to find these tools and put them in my toolbox if I didn't deal with them? And then I get to help other people. Is that my goal is to keep people off of pharma.
Sure.
Like I'm all for natural things. I love natural solutions. But the reality is how much we're able to do just creating that manipulative switch, that reprogramming of the brain. Like you're right. Grab popcorn, dig in, and just like have fun with whatever this is that's going on up there.
Yeah.
But the more you practice halting it, the better and better and better you get at it. And like anything else, once you get healthy in it, you're like, oh, I'll never go back. Like I won't let anyone take me back.
That pattern disrupt of doing that, like as soon as you could break that cycle, like I've done that with a bunch of things. Like I don't know, I went on vacation and stopped doing this thing or walking down that road or whatever, like just some annoying habit. Doesn't have to be a big thing, but as soon as you break that and you interrupt that, it's sometimes impossible to go back to it. And I think it's just so funny because you're like, I could have stopped doing this like years ago and I just, what? Make it like this.
I know one of my favorite phrases is like, I'm not dead. And my son, he even bought me the mug that said, did you die? Right from the movie.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Like, because I used to say to him, like, he'd be like, this and this and that. And I'm like, did you die? You're fine. Like, you're okay. You went left instead of right this time. And the person's like, just deep breathing. And I'm like, you're alive. And then they go, oh, I am alive. I did not die. I'm
Record
okay.
scratch, huh? What?
So
I'm still here.
That terrifies you, the idea of just severing a thought. It is really frightening for a lot of us because it's like, if I don't finish that, I may implode. And so what happens is you do it and you just take some deep breaths and then you wait a few minutes and go, I didn't die. I'm still here. Okay. And you just, it's just repetition of that. But it does help to have some other things where someone's walking with you and going, where's the resource you need for that? How do you trick your brain into doing this? Our brain's been kind of running us. And so it's like, we need to take back control. And so understanding the brain helps you do that.
Yeah, no, that's great. So like, I guess that's a great lead into sort of the future tense question here, which is where do you see this going for you as a practitioner? Like, I know you do sort of varied work right now. I mean, is there a kind of direction you see yourself heading in at the moment?
With NLP or just in general?
No, just in general. I mean, you
Just
seem
in
to be a
general,
pretty
sounds fine,
dynamic
yeah.
practitioner, right? Like one of the things that really drew me to you in our first conversation was sort of the breadth of interest that you have, and you kind of like effortlessly stack the Legos in a way that's unique to you, for sure. I don't know if you're unique in that world, but at least in the people I've met in this world, you definitely have a unique approach, and I really like that. Like, so I'm kind of, it's like a curiosity, like, well, what's Holly got up her sleeve next?
Right?
You know?
Yeah, I'm actually, what's really fun. So, I'm going to try to make this shorter than it is, but someone brought to me, a couple of years ago, probably it's been 2 years now. I'm always interested in new ways, right? New tools. And so I started in the grief. I picked up the NLP and doing EMDR and different things. So I've got all these fun tools in my pocket. But someone brought me this one process and they said, hey, have you read Dream Manager? And I'm like, no. Okay. So they have a fictional book called Dream Manager. Matthew Kelly did this program. And it's this whole idea of helping people rediscover what their dreams are and make them happen in 1 year. And so I'm like, whatever. But I go to listen to it and I'm actually in tears. I'm like cleaning my closet. I just put it on like an Audible. I'm like, I'll just listen to this. And I start crying because I'm like, this is a very surface level of what I do, but it's getting people in habit changes, reformatting things and making their dreams come true in the process. So they have to come up with 100 dreams and I make 4 big ones come true with them that year. And actually we end up getting many more in there. And we're recreating all their physical habits, intellectual habits, emotional and spiritual. We're changing all of those daily without it looking like this huge mountain. It's just these tiny little steps. So by the end of the year, it is literally life-changing. But once I got trained in that and started doing it, what I noticed in it was that when I'm working with people, I can't get them to that state till we go back and heal what's already happened.
Right. So that's, again, it's like, exactly.
Yeah,
right.
They've got these hindering. So what I've incorporated is doing some of the grief work in the beginning, using NLP techniques, a little bit of EMDR, like I'm plugging in different things as we walk through.
As it seems to fit.
What they see is a very not scary program. Because if you bring someone something and you go, hey, let's do NLP, let's do grief management, they're like, that sounds terrible. I don't want to do that.
Does that come with a free gun? Because this sounds awful.
Let's dig into the most painful thing I've ever had happen in my life.
This sounds terrible.
It was nice knowing you for 5 minutes, Holly.
Yeah.
But if I can bring them Dream Manager, which we really do, it's not just up front. Like it's an amazing, cool thing, but I get to do this other work under. So what I'm doing right now is actually creating my own curriculum of taking all these great things that I'm learning and going, how do I put that in its own path? And then I'm going to be the goal, and we're trademarking it right now. So the goal is to have my own program so that I can train coaches to go do what I do. Not to say that other people aren't doing great things, but let's put together what I've done so far. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you're like the Bruce Lee of NLP. You're like putting like 10 martial arts together and making it your own. I love it.
Just Jeet Kune Do'd it.
Yeah, you just Jeet Kune Do'd it. That's great. I didn't learn about that till, I was in my 20s and I was like, get the fuck out of here. So I started looking it up. He was like the original fucking dude who mushed a bunch of shit that worked into a pot and said, since all these people's egos are too big to recognize that these guys are really good at this and these guys are really good at that, and these guys are really good at this, I'm just going to steal it, smush it into a ball, give it a new name, and it's mine. And when you look at it as a martial art system, it's probably one of the easiest, most straightforward, basic things ever that's fucking wildly effective. Like, and it's like,
right.
And it's just one of those things where you're like, duh, I guess if you took like 50 of the best things and put them together
from different styles. Yeah.
You're like, okay, that is not uncomplicated. That's not complicated. That's a very simple idea. Right.
And that's the cool thing is, like I said earlier, I was a teacher in a past life. And so as a teacher, you learn to steal. And we're all good with that. Like, it's not a bad thing. It's like, if you've already come up with it, why do I need to reinvent it? Right.
Correct.
And so learning all of these things, it's never about stealing from what someone's created. I love what they've created. But the idea is there are so many different avenues that people keep building upon. So let's mesh all this together, and then, what I do kind of bring to it is as I go in, you learn, I was kind of doing that all along. So it's like one of the fun jobs I get to do sometimes is profiling. So they'll bring me in when they're going to hire someone or when a team's struggling or whatever, and I profile for them what's going right and wrong because I can kind of read the people. But then you realize, oh, I've always been kind of reading the people. So it's going, okay, well, how do I figure out, just like these two guys did for NLP, what am I doing there that I could teach that to someone else? Like, how can I relay that to other people who may have a sense of intuition in that way? How do we grow that, And then there's some people that go, I want to be a coach. And I'm like, no, you shouldn't.
You should not do this. Yeah. Well, I see so many of those. I mean, people come to me, they're like, oh, I'm a coach. I meet them at a networking group. I'm a coach. And like, oh, cool. What are you interested in? I'm interested in, weight loss or wellness or whatever it is they're into. I'm like, oh, so how long you been doing it? This is month 3. And I'm like, oh, cool. Congrats, I guess. I don't know. But like, then you start talking to them and then I start judging because I'm like, oh, and because now I'm looking for like the flaws. And I admit this is not a good look for me, but like, I start to realize that they're like, they're in that regurgitation mode, right? Like that we all were in when we first started our shit. It was like, I'm the smartest person in the room because I know I read this like Amazon bestseller book on this thing, right? Like, and look, we've all done that, but like they're still in that stage. So I'm just like, oh, good for you. You're so cute. Yeah.
I get one email a week asking to join my staff as a coach, and you like look at them and it's literally, you just finished the course.
Right.
And you don't seem to have it going in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's definitely, when you're looking for a coach or you're doing whatever, you want to be a coach, there's an element of just natural something that has to go
100%.
in. I don't even take to that. I'm like, cool. This is what I was given. This is awesome.
Right.
Because I get to help people. It's amazing. But I have a lot of people, some people that come to me and they're like, I'd love to do that. And I could see that, I could see we could develop something, but you regurgitate a lot in the I it's not pretty. And then experience is what drives that. And you just have to get that in the door and start doing that. And I always tell people when I would start new companies, I'd be like, you're my guinea pig. Just understand I'm going to suck at this right now.
Yeah. It's totally fine. I will fuck this up and you're going to be okay with it.
We're going to make it together. Yeah. But there's
luckily you're an NLP person. You could just make that go. You're like, yes, you will. This is the idea.
You will be all right.
So,
yeah. I will fake it and you won't know.
Holly, if I had 2 days, I don't think I'd stop asking you questions. So I'm going to have to do the mature thing and
what
shut
we
us.
found is visitors.
Yes,
listen to the episode.
yeah. Significant drop off after 8 hours. No. So, but listen, it was absolutely spectacular talking to you. How do we send people to you? Where do we send them? What do we want to tell them? Like, what anything you can tell us?
Yeah, right now I've got a very basic, not updated because I'm too busy, but website that's iwillrise.org, I believe, is where we're at right now. I'm about to start, getting that whole trademarked on Living with Intention. So that's going to be the program that's coming out.
Awesome.
But yeah, right now, iwillrise.org. They can slime through there and find me that way. But I can give you guys connections for emails and things like that they can do too. So.
Awesome. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes for sure.
Yeah.
And we just are infinitely curious about this, and I know I'm gushing a little bit, but I really love the fact that you shared time with us, because what I'm realizing personally, again, is that what I thought this show was going to be about and what it is becoming about are the things we've gotten to cover. I mean, I just never could have predicted it, and like these are one of those things where you're like, and tomorrow we're doing Woman Who's Got a Whole Reinvention of Divorce, and it's like one of those things where you're like, never thought of that as health, but what is less healthy than a bad divorce? Right? Like that. Yeah. So it's like interesting how we can just kind of expand and just, for being a part of that. I just, again, thank you. So
yeah, Matt said I was going to love you, and I definitely do after this combo.
Yeah,
so
it was like,
this has been really great.
I'm so glad. Thank you guys. Y'all are awesome. I got to go and play and listen, and I'm like, oh yeah,
no, it's fine. I told you when we talked, I'm like, listen, this is literally going to be the easiest conversation you've ever had in your entire life. This is not going to be,
I feel like we got to remind guests for the Thursday night ones, it's okay to have a drink in hand. Yeah, it's like.
Yeah, we have this.
Next time you come on, we'll make sure we preface it with that.
We have this ongoing observational bet with ourselves. We're like, everyone self-selects Thursday night or Friday morning, but it's
like who's who,
but it's really funny. You get the right night, right? Like you like the booking.
The Friday's a little bit more like they're great guests. It's just they're a little
The conversations are just a little bit more
Friday
reserved.
morning.
Yeah,
They're
the Friday morning crew. Yeah, the Friday morning. Yeah, which is great, which is fine. I mean, I love it. But you have the more analytical type, so the conversation tends to get a little bit more nerdy, and that's great. But it's less. I don't want to say less fun, but it's more about the, like, we just get into it, like deep into the science of it, which is fine, and it's awesome. But the Thursday ones are a little bit more playful. Especially
there's always a little bit more animation.
Yeah. When they show up with wine or a joint, that makes it even more playful. Yes.
Well, now I know.
Yeah.
I forgot.
For next time,
we will have you back, and we will send you a supply list.
We are absolutely having you back when you kick this program off. Please think of us when you launch that, because I'd love to bring you back and do like a little show and tell on that thing, because that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Sounds fun. Yeah, anytime. It was fun playing. I will remember there next time.
Yeah, awesome.
Just pick the Thursday night.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. No, I'm not a Friday morning. No.
Enjoy the weekend, everybody.
Let's get out of here.
Bye, guys.
Be subversive, irreverent.
Health is wealth, but you knew that.
Everybody knows that.
But so is following us on social media at Irreverent Health. And check out our website for more exclusive content at irreverenthealth.com.
Oh, I like this.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Irreverent Health.